Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to explore the ultimate grand thought experiment. We spend so much of our time thinking about how we're shaping the world, right? But we rarely pause to consider what the world would look like if we just stopped. If our incredible, noisy, complex civilization was suddenly totally removed from the equation. What actually happens to the concrete, the power grids, our pets, the planet itself? We're going to walk through a fascinating timeline of planetary restoration, step by step, to see exactly how Earth would respond to our sudden absence.
To really grasp this, we've got to set some parameters. What if every single human vanished at the exact same moment? Just poof, gone. No bodies left behind, no apocalyptic debris, no zombies, no alien invasions. Just an instantaneous global erasure of our entire species. It's a wildly surreal concept, isn't it? The ticking clock of human civilization completely stops. And right at that very second, the clock of nature begins to run at full speed. So let's see how this all plays out. Starting off with Section 1, T0 to minutes, the first 60 seconds.
In those very first 60 seconds, the world is deceptively calm. But right beneath that calm, a catastrophic, cascading failure is brewing. Just think about the skies right now. Instantly, thousands of commercial and private planes currently mid-flight are left completely without human intervention. The autopilot systems, well, they simply do what they were programmed to do. They blindly stay the course. But autopilot can't magically land a plane without human prompts, and it definitely can't manage fuel reserves indefinitely. So the fuel runs dry. Within hours, those thousands of highly engineered marvels of aviation literally turn into falling debris raining down on a completely empty planet.
Bringing it back down to ground level, the delicate symphony of our world breaks almost immediately. Our modern society relies heavily on a continuous, hyperactive balancing act. Our power grids, for example, they don't just pump out electricity into the void. They require constant, incredibly precise match between supply and human demand, just to stabilize their massive, humming loads.
So, without us, what happens to that grid? Well, without human demand to draw the power, load stabilization completely fails on a global scale. There's suddenly way too much power with absolutely nowhere to go. To prevent catastrophic system-wide explosions from this massive imbalance, automated systems at power plants immediately trigger emergency shutdowns. Literally within minutes of our disappearance, the lights begin to flicker and die. The sprawling, glowing metropolises we've built, cities that literally never sleep, are rapidly plunged into an eternal, suffocating darkness.
Moving along our timeline, we enter Section 2, Hours to 1 Week, the Days of Silent Crisis.
This brings us to a hidden crisis unfolding right below our feet. If you live in a major city with a subway system, you might not actually realize that these subterranean networks are essentially maintained tombs. Subway systems rely entirely on massive electric pumps to keep natural groundwater from seeping in. No humans means no power, and those electric pumps fail. The groundwater that's been artificially held back for decades, it rises completely unchecked. Within mere hours, billions of dollars of underground infrastructure are totally flooded, effectively returning to the underground rivers they were built over.
Then the timeline gets pretty grim as we look at the rest of that first week. By day 1, millions of our domestic companions, our dogs, our cats, are locked behind closed doors, waiting patiently for owners who are never coming back. By day 3, the sad reality sets in. Extreme hunger forces these domestic animals to break their restraints, shatter windows, or literally dig through drywall. They revert so quickly to their primal instincts, and our manicured suburban streets suddenly become a lawless frontier for survival. And by day 7, a much larger silent threat emerges. Without human maintenance and active cooling systems, the world's nuclear power plants face a massive crisis. The fuel rods overheat and radiation begins to leak into the surrounding environment. This kicks off a slow, radioactive burn that's going to deeply scar the immediate surrounding landscapes for years to come.
Stepping back for a wider view, we hit Section 3. 1 year in, the Great Cleaning begins. Now, what's really interesting about this next phase is we see a profound shift from the frantic panic of failing human systems to the slow, incredibly methodical reclamation by nature. The central theme here is that the immense human burden of maintenance is finally lifted. We spend so much energy just holding nature back, 1 year in, dust settles permanently on glass facades, weeds sprout up everywhere, and, as it turns out, our roads are incredibly fragile. Asphalt is super brittle, and without constant repaving, the roots beneath the surface begin to heave and crack it like glass. And just think about the wildlife. The artificial order is completely fraying. Animals are reclaiming the space. You've got herds of deer casually wandering down Main Street, browsing on overgrown decorative plants, and right behind them, natural predators are moving back into the suburbs. The concrete jungle literally becomes a real jungle.
Jumping forward a bit now, we arrive at Section 4, a century later, the fall of steel.
This part brilliantly illustrates a pretty humbling truth about our architectural pride. Think about our modern building materials, steel and glass. We tend to think of them as permanent, right? But they are incredibly temporary. Steel is basically a prisoner of oxidation. Without constant human care, without repainting and rust-proofing, rust literally eats the skeleton of every skyscraper and bridge we have ever built. But compare that to ancient stone structures like the pyramids or ancient temples. Stone endures the test of time. It's fascinating, and honestly deeply ironic, that the ancient stone monuments of our ancestors will easily outlast the towering modern achievements of our present day. We've built a spectacular civilization, for sure, but structurally, it was only ever built for the short term.
A century in, the great steel arches of our magnificent bridges finally succumb to that rust. They snap and collapse into the rivers below, completely unable to hold their own massive weight anymore. And those towering glass skyscrapers? The windows blew out a long time ago, and now they just stand as hollowed-out bird sanctuaries, these eerie, rusted skeletons rising out of a dense green canopy.
Now we're going to take a massive jump forward into deep geological time. Section 5, Deep Time, 1 million years later.
1 million years. It's a scale of time that's almost impossible for the human brain to truly comprehend. If an alien visitor were to arrive on Earth after 1 million years, they would find absolutely zero terrestrial evidence of our existence. Nothing. Our radio waves would have washed over them long ago and faded into the cosmic background noise. There are no cities left, no bridges, no highways, none of it.
Even the things we consider to be permanent pollutants are handled by nature's immense patience. Our stubborn plastics? Over 1 million years, they're broken down, crushed, and seamlessly integrated into compressed geological layers beneath the Earth. The climate, which we altered so drastically, has entirely recovered from our industrial fever. The atmosphere has completely scrubbed itself clean. The Earth they find is simply green, blue, and perfectly, wildly balanced.
It's a really humbling reality to face. Our disappearance would be an unimaginable tragedy for humanity. Yes, absolutely. But for the planet itself, it's a grand, beautiful reset. The Earth doesn't miss us. It doesn't mourn our towering cities or our art. It simply takes a deep breath, reclaims its space, and flourishes. But before we wrap this up, there is one amazing caveat. The world has entirely forgotten us, and the Earth has erased our footprints, save for one single solitary location.
As the source material so beautifully puts it, our footprints remain etched into the lunar dust, silent, unmoving, and eternal, the only monument to the species that reach for the stars. Up there on the moon, there's no wind, no rain, no active geology to wipe the slate clean. Out in the cold vacuum of space, those human footprints from the Apollo missions will sit there completely undisturbed for millions of years. It's the final, enduring legacy of a species that managed to briefly slip the bonds of Earth.
Which brings us to our final thought. We aren't the masters of Earth. We're just temporary visitors in a very deep, very grand timeline. We are here for only a brief flicker of time, a tiny moment of consciousness in the vast dark of the universe. So the real question this thought experiment poses isn't just about what happens after we vanish. It's about today. We are the only species on this planet that actually knows our time is limited. So what will you choose to do with the time you have right now? Make your flicker of time matter. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.